Hello and welcome everybody to today's webinar. What is new in the VAPS, the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler for Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. My name is Martin. I'm CEO and one of the owners of NETRONIC software, and I will do this webinar today for you and with you. You see my contact details on the screen, so whenever you have a question on the VAPS or any of our other products, if you have ideas to share, if you have feedback to give, please reach out at any time. Either send me an email or let's connect on LinkedIn. Send me a tweet, although I would prefer an email or a chat message in LinkedIn. So overall, I'm really glad that you're here with us today, that you are interested in Visual Advanced Production Scheduling for Business Central. And just for, let's say, housekeeping reasons, in this webinar, you're on mute, but this is not a sign that I don't want to discuss and interact with you, but this is just how these webinars are. If you have a question, then please use the GoToWebinar chat pane, and I will answer your questions, most likely all in this webinar. So typically when I'm on PowerPoint, I see question marks popping up here in my GoToWebinar pane. And then I get alerted and I will answer right away. If I'm doing demos, then I might not see actually that you're asking questions. So then please give me a couple of minutes to finish the demo. And then from every demo, I go back to PowerPoint and then I will see if you have questions and I will answer them then. If there are questions that are too tricky to be answered spontaneously, then I would suggest to have an offline conversation or do a follow-up meeting between you asking the question and me, hopefully then being able to answer. So with this, let's get going. As you saw from the title of the webinar is titled, What is New in the VAPS, the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler? So actually, this is a webinar that addresses people who already know the VAPS, and it will deal with incremental functionality that we released in December. So it is not a webinar where I introduce the basics of the product. So it is not an introduction into the product, but it is a webinar for those people who know the product and who want to see what is new. So I will not explain in all the details, all the concepts of the VAPS, but I promise that we will do an introductory webinar into Visual Advanced Production Scheduling maybe in February or early March timeframe. So before I start, I ask you a favor, and all of those who were already in the VPS/VJS webinar on Tuesday, please bear with me that I repeat this, but for all of you who are new, there actually will be a virtual conference called Dynamics Con, which is organized by the Dynamics user group, and this will be, I think, a 3-day event in March with tracks on Business Central, with tracks on the Power Platform, with tracks also on F&O and other Dynamics products. And I submitted 2 sessions as potential presentations for the Business Central track. So I submitted a session on the Advanced Visual Production Scheduler, and I also submitted a session on the Business Central Manufacturing State-of-the-Art Report 2020, where I would like to present some findings of a market survey that we did end of last year, beginning of this year. The thing is, you can submit a session and then the community, so the people who will attend this event, can vote which session to run. And this is the link where I cordially ask you to go to dynamicscon.com submissions and then please vote for my sessions. This would be really, really kind of you, and I thank you in advance. And with this, let's jump into the topic. With the VAPS, we are now in a phase where we do really a continuous enhancement process. So the VAPS is our, let's say, youngest extension. So it is still a very, very young product. We released the first version almost a year ago. So I think we released the first version on the 17th of January last year. So it's a product that is 1 year old. And now I made a typo, which I fix while I present. We released already the 5th version of it. So a product 1 year old, the 5th version. The initial version in January, then we shipped versions in May and June, one in October, and now one in December. And every version that we ship, and this is our release policy, always includes bug fixes, some internal work, so some refactoring, some code cleaning, some improvements to performance and stability, but also every version includes new features and functions. And so if you use the software and are under a valid support and maintenance agreement, or if you use the software as a subscribed user paying subscription fees, then like in every you have the right to get these versions for free, and all your customers have the right to get these versions for free. And so you see that there is quite some agility in our development. Whenever we publish a new version, whenever we ship a new version, we go back to Microsoft and get the product and get this version recertified for App Source. So last year with the VAPS, we went 5 times to Microsoft. So basically almost every second month, we went to Microsoft and said, hey, here's a new product and here update version of the new product. Please check. And if they comply, update them in App Source. So we make sure that whenever we ship a version, we comply with Microsoft's App Source certification requirements, and then we get the new version into App Source in a timely manner so that every new version is available for both on-prem and cloud deployments. So now we are kind of with the product on a trajectory where we release at least one new version per quarter. This is also something that we will see this year. Maybe we will see also again 5 versions this year, because we're actually planning to have a release in January, or beginning of February. So the Q1 release will be rather early. So let's see. We're still kind of fine-tuning the final roadmap for this year, which is then also something that I will share with you later. And whenever you look at our products, your ideas are more than welcome. So a lot of ideas that were part of these releases actually came from you, our customers and partners. So if you work with the product, if you look at the product, if you test the product because you download it from App Source, if you see videos, if you see webinars, and if you have an idea or if you have feedback or if you have criticism, then please openly share. I'm and my company, we are really willing to listen, and oftentimes also we not only listen, but we take action. So please, 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 please share with us any smart and clever and bright and idea that you have. So with this, let's talk about the version 1.4 that we shipped in the week before Christmas. So that then after that, everybody in the development team had really deserved a Christmas break and Christmas vacation, which we all took. So we had this new version that came out late December. And so I decided that when everybody's back in the office, we run a webinar on this to kind of update you on this. So we have kind of 3 things that are more background features, and then 4 really new topics. So with the VAPS, and I explained this already on Tuesday for the VPS and the VJS as well, we now have the capability to show custom fields in the tooltip and in the bar label. So we have this dialog with which you, or this configurator, which you can build your own tooltip and which you can change the description on the bar label. And if you have custom fields, for example, in the production order or in the production order line or on the routing line, and want to see them either on the bar label or in the tooltip, then please follow this link. So go to helpnetronic.com and search for custom fields VAPS, and then you will find this link, and then you get a how-to instruction how you actually can make your custom fields that you might have on production order header or routing line, how you can make these fields appear in our configuration tool for the tooltip and for the bar label. We significantly improved the performance by making a clever calculation of the histogram curves that initially we also always calculate in advance, and now we find some ways to changing this. And we also now support alternative connection to Microsoft base apps, which is relevant if you have an ISV solution, so like the To Increase product or other the footwear product or other ISV products, and you want to kind of you have this ISV product integrating with the base app and want to now use the VAPS, then this is possible. And also I think in the knowledge base there's some help on this. So this is something that I will not show you. I will focus in my demo part on these 4 things. So now with the VAPS, also from time to time, working with the VAPS triggers some notifications, and you can switch them off if you find them annoying. We made or we brought some functionality that we previously developed for the VPS and the VJS. We now brought them to the VAPS, and this is that you can change the appearance, which means you can apply a zoom factor and a more compact layout so that you see more information on the screen. And we enhanced the search functionality that we introduced with the October release. And then the biggest new feature is actually that we worked on capabilities to change operations that have already been started. So you have a released production order. This released production order have operations, and now you have already postings on this operation, and then something happens that you need to change this. In the past, it was always be that we said, okay, if a production order had been on operation, had been started, you cannot move it. And now we found some options how to make this possible. So let's dig into this a little deeper. So change operations that have already been started. And I think I already told this. What does this mean? Well, operation that have already been started means we're talking about operations from released production orders that already have a posting, right? You can only do a posting on a released production order. So we're talking about operations from released production orders that have a posting. And now, although they have a posting, you want to change them. So you want to make some changes to it. Obviously, you cannot change the start date because it is started. Otherwise, it wouldn't have a posting. But there could be reasons for changing them. And what are these reasons? Well, the one reason is that you or your customer recognize that it might actually take longer or shorter to finish a started operation. So initially you planned to finish it in 8 hours, and now it is running. You have 25% completed, but the guys from shop floor tell, well, you know what? We will need 7 hours still. So not 6 as you would assume, but 7. Or you have 50% done. But they tell you, okay, time-wise, we are already at 80%, so you will be finished shorter. So we can now change actually the length of a started operation. And I will show you how this works in a couple of minutes. Then it can also be that you produced a partial quantity, you're pretty okay with it, and this is actually a partial quantity that you already can ship to your customer, and now you need to squeeze in another production order on that machine and finish the rest of that previous production order that you did not finish later. So you could say like, okay, I want to split this. I did already part. So you have whatever, you have a production order with 1,000 pieces and you did already 200, and now you want to cut this off and say, okay, the 800 I will do later because I can ship the 200 to my customers. They will be happy. I can squeeze in another thing and then do the 800 later. So this is a typical use case that is now possible. And then the other thing is maybe also you started to produce on it and the machine breaks because maybe the machine also had some issues, and then you need to move this on another machine either to finish or to start it anew. So these are typical use cases. And if we break them down now, they have, depending on what use case this is, this might have a different implication on how to handle and support these cases in a visual scheduler. So let's look a little bit deeper into what does it mean to change a started operation. So first of all, we have like the need to make it longer or shorter. This is the one option that or the one flavor of changing a started operation. The other flavor is I want to move it. Either I want to move it in time, like the example with the 1000 where I finished 200 and need to move out the 800, or the case with the machine that breaks that I want to move it vertically and reassign it to another machine center. And again, both of them require different interactions in a visual scheduler, and both of them actually also are treated and have to be treated differently. So let's start with make it longer or shorter. Well, the case is pretty clear, right? Excuse me, your operators tell you that you will need longer or shorter to finish the operation. So you planned for a certain time, and now that this operation is running, you have some new insights, maybe on the material or on some other quality criteria or on the whatever, the performance of the machine. And now they say, okay, actually, I could run the machine faster. I will be finished earlier. Or the material is not that good. We need to slow down the machine. It will take longer. Whatever it is running and you get information, it will take longer or shorter. So you need to make it longer or make it shorter. If you make it longer, so if there is a bar and we make it longer, we build it in the way that the subsequent operation on that machine are automatically pushed out. Okay, so imagine you have one operation lined up after the other on your machine, and now there is one that is started, that has some posting, and you need to make it longer, then you just can draw it longer, and all the others on that machine are automatically pushed out. If you make it shorter, which we also allow, then we build it in a way that the subsequent operations on that machine are not automatically pushed to the left, pushed forward and started earlier, because actually the way of how the VAPS is built, it is a finite capacity forward scheduling, not a backward scheduling. So we kind of never make like implicit movement to the left, but we have the function that is called fill idle time, and with this you then can quite easily kind of close the gaps that started to exist on that machine because you are done or you will be done faster. But if there is a production order sitting on the standby machine of this of the standby resource of this machine, then you could squeeze it also in. So if things become finished faster, then there is a gap, and then you as a planner or the planner of your customer has the power to decide what to do. Bring everything forward with fill idle times or squeeze something in because you won this free time. Okay, so this is kind of one flavor, and this flavor boils down into two different interactions with two different ways that the schedule behaves for two different good reasons. Here in this case, it is the opposite. So we have actually in this flavor that we want to move, we have two cases. Like the one case is we finished the partial quantity and want to move the remaining quantity out or to a different machine. And this then is, in that case, we need to tell the software that we want to move just the remaining quantity because we are okay with what was finished. So we built this 200 pieces out of 1000. They are okay. They get shipped to the customer. And now we need to tell the system, okay, but the remaining 800, they should be done at a later point of time at the same or a different machine. And then there's another case. Another case is maybe you finished a partial quantity, but this finished partial quantity might be scrap because actually there might have been something wrong with the machine, and this defect on the machine let you produce crap output. And so you not only need, and let's say the same case, like let's assume you have 1000 pieces, you produce 200 and then recognize that all these 200 pieces are not good quality. Then you would stop it there, and then you would need to move the entire operation. So you would need to move again 1000 pieces to a later point of time or to a different machine or both. So in that case, you need to tell the VAPS that you want to move the total quantity. So if we move started operation, we have the option to decide if we want to move the remaining quantity only or if we want to move the total quantity. And in both cases, this is drag and drop. So what happens is you say, I want to move this. So you drag and drop. And when you drag and drop, you will get asked, hey, what is it that you want to drag and drop? Is it the total quantity or just the remaining quantity? So the quantity that you did not post yet. So these are big differences. And this is now, I think, enough theory. And let's have a look at how we build this into the VAPS. And with this, let's switch to here. And most likely, I even didn't start it, so let me start this. And I will show you all the things that we built, but of course I will spend the most time with change the operations that already have been started. So maybe we start with the settings that we changed. So under the VAPS setup, you now have the option to either enable notifications or disable them. And then you see under VAPS setup appearance, zoom factor 100 and layout standard. So now let's make a couple of tests what this means. So let me create a simulation. Let me create a new one. And I do the production on the status view. So this is basically how you have been knowing this. So this is the standard layout of the VAPS, and you see we have the work center group, the work centers, the machine centers, the standby resources, all production orders here now have been scheduled. And you see a couple of machine centers, but also there are some machine centers down here that you don't see on the first glance. So under appearance, in the VAPS setup, you now can work with the zoom factor. You can say, okay, let's apply an 80% zoom factor. And if I apply this, and if I look at the same thing again, then you see it is just a little bit more compressed, and I see more information here in the visual scheduler. But still, what we have is we have these lines here have a certain height, and these certain height make sure that there's some space below and on top of the bar so that you can really also visually easily see which machine is what. But we know that there are some customers who really want to get as many details as possible on one screen. So I go back and now with the setup also select, switch it from the standard layout to what we call the compact layout. And the compact layout basically reduces the height of these individual rows so that there is less space in between. So now you see the zoom factor applied and you see the compact layout applied. And now you see with these two settings, I see almost all my resources. The only thing that I don't see is this work center group subcontractors with these two subcontracting resources. The rest is on my screen now. And this is something that now you and your customers can decide how you want to look at this data. If you have a laser sharp eyes or a very, very big screen, then this could be a good option. For me, actually, and for the purpose of this demo, I will switch back to the more to the standard layout and to maybe go to zoom factor 90 so that we have a bit of individualization here, but the layout goes to standard again, because this will just help me demonstrate things. But if I would be a user, I also would want to see more information. So I would make use of either the compact layout or some zoom factor. So this is definitively new. So we looked at how to switch off the notifications. We looked at the zoom factor and the compact layout to kind of have an influence on the overall appearance here. And then really cool thing, we enhanced the search functionality. So under action, there is search. And so far in this view, which is the capacity view, you could search an operation or you could search information from an operation. So I could say, show me production order 101597. And when I would hit enter, I would see this production order. Or I could just go here and say, show me something that is on drilling. So I could basically search all these information. As this was tied in with the production order routing line, the drawback this search had, I could not search for an item. And I think this is quite a shame, because sometimes you don't want to look for the production order of an operation, but you want to say, okay, now let me see where these items are. So we enhanced the search that you also could look for information from a production order line, and the production order line, of course, includes the item number. So now I can say, okay, now I want to search for, and I have item 3007. I want to search for it, and then I see all these production orders for this item, and then I can say, hey, actually, there's the one that is released. This interests me most, so I can click this, and then you see the one that I selected is blinking here and is highlighted, is selected. So this is enhanced search functionality in this capacity view. Then in addition to this capacity view, we also have the sales order view, where we look at sales orders, where we look at the items that are part of these sales orders and when these items are planned to be produced. And then you also could drill down into the operation. Well, this is a stupid example because only one operation under there, but here, for example, we see there are actually more operations. And also the sales order view with the first version of the search, we only could look for the sales order. Now we enhanced by the search the sales order line, and this now should give me the capability to, or is the other one, to look for the item number. So I could search for my item, whatever, 3008 again, and then I see I sold these items 3 times and they became to a production order. So maybe this one is interesting for me. So then I can say, okay, and then this is highlighted here, and I can drill down from here and see further details. So this is also something that I regard as quite useful, is that the information that you or your customers need to retrieve, that you get to them faster. So now let me go back to the capacity view. And now we talked about the 3 minor enhancements of the VAPS that we shipped in December. Now let's talk a bit about the major enhancement, and this is the change operations that have already been started. And you see, as this is the production order status view, the orange ones are my released production order. So I actually have this one here that is highlighted, which starts on cutting, goes to drilling, and then finishes in milling. And then I have this one here, which only consists of this one operation. And you see, this is the time now. This is my work date, the 28th of January. And you see that those 2 operations that were supposed to start yesterday actually started yesterday, because they have these progress bar. So if we have a look at this production order here, it is for quantity of 250, and I think the remaining quantity is 225. So I already posted 25. So now we see actually this started here. We are here, so we were supposed to do this quantity but the guys from the shop floor only posted this quantity. So we are lagging a little bit. We are running behind the schedule. So now we have the case like, okay, hey, actually, I want to make this longer because I have information that we will not finish here on Tuesday midday, but maybe we will finish this Tuesday end of shift. So what I can do now is, and if I would try to move this now, I have no option because this is started. You see, if I move over a non-started operation, this cursor indicates me, okay, hey, you can actually move it. If I'm moving over a operation that has posting on it that is started, I cannot move it by drag and drop. But what I can do now is on a right mouse click, I can say change started operation, because this is what we want to do. We want to change the started operation. Then the operation that I selected for change, although it is started, is highlighted in red. And then what I can do is, if you see now I'm coming again with my cursor. And if I'm over this bar, you see, I get this cursor that tells me, hey, I can move it. And now what I want to do is of these two options that I have, either move or make longer shorter. I want to make longer shorter, which means I want to manipulate, I want to change the end date. So if I move with the mouse cursor to the end, you see that the cursor changes. And now it shows me, hey, actually, I can make it longer shorter. So now left mouse key pressed, I can just expand it here to the end of the shift. And all the others on this machine are automatically pushed out. And if they have successors, then they are also pushed out. So this is pretty cool, I think. So now the start date still is the same. We didn't change the posting. We just reflected information. Hey, this will take longer as expected. Let's do it again because it's so much fun. Change started operation. Go with the mouse cursor here to the end. Left mouse key pressed. Make it longer a day. Boom. And all the others pushed out. And you saw the schedule above here adapted because we now had to move some successors here. And yeah, so this was moved and that was moved and then successors were moved. So this is all taken into account. And so now actually I made it too long. I can also say, okay, change started operation, and you need to always start this from this because it is really, I think it is really something that you don't want to make often, that you want to change the start operation, but now I made it too long. I can also make it shorter. So, hey, actually the guys tell me, wow, we are ready here on Monday. Good news, we managed to whatever, to make the machine run faster, or this was wrong output, whatever. So I can also make it shorter. And now you see also what happened. What I said is we don't automatically fill this gap. And now the thing is, we could have a production order waiting here, and this is something that I now could pull in from here. Or if I want to get this gap closed, I can also say action schedule, fill idle times, and then things are brought forward as good as they can. And you see now this gap is being completely filled. So this is the one way of changing a started production order. The other one, and for this I go to here, I go to this one, and we can also have a look at this one. So I have an overall quantity of 40. If I go to the production journal, if I click slowly and go to the production journal, then I see the remaining quantity to output is 15, so I already outputted 25. So I booked 25 and 15 are missing for this first operation, which is started. The others are not started because they are assumed to start now. And so now something happens, right? So I don't know. I need to squeeze something in here, or they tell me, hey, actually, we have an issue with my cutting machine 1. We should move it to cutting 3, whatever. Cutting 3 has some free capacity. So I could also now say change started operation. And then now I don't want to make it longer or shorter. I just want to drag and drop this. So I want to move it from cutting 1 to cutting 3. And then, important thing, and this is not an allowed resource, so I need to, you see, cutting 3 is grayed out because cutting 3 is not part of the alternate routing set. So I move it to cutting 2. And now I get the question, how should the input quantity of the change operation be handled? So now I can say, okay, and these were the two cases I had on the second flavor when we talked about the theory of this. So now I can say, okay, I want to keep the current quantity of 40, so I want to move the total quantity of this operation, or I want to update it and only move the remaining quantity of 15, which I do now. And then please now have a look at what happens to this bar, and this actually reflects standard Business Central behavior. So the bar, because it's only 15, gets shorter. So it got shorter. Now I can move it to here. Got shorter, but the beginning part of this is now it vanishes. So you need to be a little bit cautious when you do this. It can be confusing because if you, like I did it now, cut it off. So I only moved the 15 and not the 25 that were done. If you do this, the 25 that you already did, they vanish from the visual production scheduler because anyway, they were done and they are no longer valid for production scheduling. They will not vanish from Business Central. So they will be still in the posting and they will be on inventory and whatever, but they vanish from the scheduler. And that way, I also like, and I could do it with this one maybe, I could also move like the entire 400, 200, whatever, 50 pieces here. So I could do, when I move it, and now move it back, let me move it back, change started operation, move it back, and then I get asked, do you want to move, and now it was no longer started because I only moved the remaining 15, and they are not yet started. There is no posting on this remaining 15. But if I want to do it here again, so that we just see the message box again, change started operation. If I move it, then I get the message box where I need to decide if I want to move the full quantity or only that quantity that was not posted yet. So, and now I cancel and then it goes back. So this is functionality that I regard as pretty useful, especially if you or your customers work with a shop floor system, if you or your customers work with a data capture system, if your customer work with an MES system where you get constant information from the shop floor, where you have these progress bar updating automatically, and then you get information, okay, we need to change something. Then if you have like current data, this feature could be really, really useful. And with this, let me close Business Central and go back to my slide deck. And I see so far there are no questions. So maybe this was either all clear or all boring. Well, maybe the next thing is not that boring because I want to use this webinar not only to talk about what we shipped in December, but I also want to give you a very, very quick insight into what we are going to ship quite soon. And what we are going to ship quite soon is a functionality that we call SDST, so Sequence Dependent Setup Times. So what the heck is SDST? What the heck is Sequence Dependent Setup Times? Well, it's pretty easy. You can have cases where the sequence of operations on a machine has an influence on the setup times, right? So the obvious example is painting. If your sequence is yellow operation first and then black afterwards, then there will be almost no setup time. But if the sequence is, if you switch from black to yellow, then you will have a long setup time because you need to clean the machine. And this, as simple as this sounds, as complex this is to build. So we actually found a way of how to incorporate a setup oriented, a setup optimizing mechanism to include this into the VAPS. And so how will this work? Well, we will work with item attributes, and we will give you the capability to mark item attributes as a setup driver. Then typically this does not apply on every machine. So in my example, you could have cutting lines, you could have welding lines, you could have edge bending, you could have whatever, milling, drilling. None of them is impacted by the color of the material. But if it goes to painting, then the item attribute color becomes setup relevant. So you will have to say, okay, which item attribute is relevant for a sequence dependent setup time, and you have to say then, okay, this actually is valid for that machine center. And it could be also profile stancing, where you go from wide to narrow or vice versa. Or in food, it could be where you mix food, and then where you need to make sure if there are allergens and non-allergenic ingredients. So, but it is always like there are certain item attributes that drive the setup time, and this happens on a few machines. And then for those machines where this happens, you actually have to define a setup time matrix, right? So in my case, on the painting line, I would say, okay, from yellow to black, it's 5 minutes, and from black to yellow, it's 120 minutes, from yellow to yellow, none, and from black to black, it is also 0. So here, it would be a pretty easy matrix, 2 times 2, right? Yellow to black, yellow to yellow, black to yellow, black to black. And then what we also ask you is to define a preferred sequence, because sometimes customers would not prefer start with yellow and then black, but they would have it vice versa. So first black, then yellow, and then black again, because maybe black is the product that brings them the higher revenue or whatever. So we want to define this, and then also we want to define a period for which you want to bundle same attributes on a machine. So a period of time when you say, okay, for these 2 weeks, I want to make sure that I do, in quote, campaign, so that I get as many yellows after each other and then the blacks. But we need this period, because otherwise we would run danger to pull in production orders that are too far out just for setup optimization time, and then we would get issues with delivery times or whatever. So this is a very, very brief overview on how we are building this, and I promise I will run a separate webinar just on this, where we drill down into all the details. So when will it come? It will come very soon. We scheduled it for end of January, beginning of February. So actually, we scheduled it for the last day of January, but if it spills over in the first week of February, I would be also still very happy to have a soon and a timely release of this big functionality. And if you have a couple of more minutes, then I can give you actually really a sneak preview. But in order to do a sneak preview, I need to do some boring stuff, and I asked you to give me a couple of minutes, because I need to change my VAPS version from the released version, which I quickly rename here on my machine. Rename. And then this is the release version. And then I have my version that includes the current status of the sequence dependent setup time version. Yeah, so now let me run a script with which I can quickly update my extensions here. So and this will take just a minute or so. But now I need to update like the extension, and then we can have a quick look. The data will be the same like we had them before. But we can do more with the data, because now I get more functionality, because now I'm installing what we call the internal preview version of a VAPS that already includes the SDST function, and it's not 100% perfect. But we don't want to release it today, but we want to release it in 2 weeks or so. But I thought actually I take this opportunity to give you a sneak preview, and now hopefully this script, and I could have changed so that it would just update the VAPS, but anyway, should be finished anytime soon. So now this script is done, and now I have updated my VAPS. Sign in again. So now everything is the same, but remember there were 5 steps. So the first step was mark an item attribute as setup driver. So now let's go to item attributes and see what item attributes I have. I have the item attribute color, where I have the colors yellow, blue, and black. And I edit the list and I say, hey, this is a setup driver, right? We added this column to the item attributes. So these are standard item attributes, okay? And now what I have is I have a couple of items that have this item, one of these attributes, and I also have routings to produce these items that have these attributes. But what I'm doing here now is just, I'm saying, okay, color is a setup driver. So that was the first step, pretty easy. Second step is I need to select the machine center on which this applies. So in my case, this is the painting line number 1. So for painting line number 1, I just say, okay, let's go to my painting line number 1. And for painting line number 1, I say, okay, I want to optimize this by an item attribute, and I want to optimize this by the item attribute color. And color appears now here because I flagged this as setup driver. And then what I need to do is I need to go and define the attribute setup time matrix. This is the third step. So I need now to say, and we have 3 attributes, yellow, blue, black, as you've seen, and I have to define how long it takes. So from yellow to yellow, it takes nothing. From yellow to blue, maybe 15 minutes. From yellow to black, whatever, 25 minutes. Let's make this random. From blue to yellow, we need to clean the machine. Maybe it takes an hour. From blue to blue, it's no setup time. From blue to black, it's just a bit, maybe 45 minutes. No, less, whatever, also 25. So then from black to yellow, wow, lot of cleaning, 180 minutes. From black to blue, 120. From black to black, nothing. Setup matrix defined. Let me certify it so that we have done it. And then last thing to do is, and this might be changed where we have this, but I just want to show you the functionality. We have a look. There is the preference, and I say, okay, my preference is I want a yellow first, then blue, then black. So now, in a very quick rush, I configured some data, and now let me run a new simulation. And I create a new simulation. I do it now in the item view so that we see the items by their color. But it's still, you see, it's the same 10 production rows that we had before. So the schedule is the same. It is now colored differently. We have our things that are in progress here. And then if we drill down or scroll down to my painting line, you actually see that I have scheduled a couple of production orders for the next week and the week after. And the sequence is far from being optimal right now, right? I scheduled this just randomly. So it's yellow, then blue, then yellow, then black, then blue, then black and black. So from its setup sequence doesn't make that much sense. And so if I go and say view, show me the setup time, then I have setup time from my standard routing, and you see that these gray things now is setup time. So now what I can do right now on the right mouse click, I can say optimize by item attribute and start with new. So start with the preferred color, start with yellow. And if I do this, then you see this get rearranged, and you see actually the lead time of this got shortened by 4 days because I'm saving setup times. And now we see I have setup time here in the beginning when we start with yellow. Then there is no setup time to change from yellow to yellow. There's a bit of setup time when I start from change from yellow to blue. No setup time from blue to blue, a bit of setup time here, and then no setup time here again. And what you also see that with these brackets here, actually these things are clustered. So, and this is something I cannot show you right now, but now I could grab this and then move this entire grouped block of yellow operations out. And again, let's look, this takes now from Monday to next week Monday. And if I say edit, undo, it takes from Monday to Friday of the week after. So it's really a drastic reduction in time, a drastic improvement of throughput time, because we arrange them set up optimized. And right now, all these production orders, they are just on this painting line. But if there would be predecessors or successors into other work centers and machine centers, we of course would take them into account. So this was like a sneak preview. I just wanted to tease this a little bit and tease you a little bit, so that when we run the launch webinar for this, maybe in a month from now or in 3 weeks from now, then please join me again so that we can drill down into all the details. And with this, I'm coming to the end of the webinar. Please, again, do me a favor, vote for my sessions at dynamicscon.com/submissions. And if you have any question, feel free to ask them now in the chat. I don't see that there is any question, or send me an email, connect with me on LinkedIn, send me the question there. So really happy to work with you, to engage with you, to help you if you're a customer, to help you win customers if you're a partner. So please get in contact so that we can jointly build a good production scheduling business. And with this, thanks for being with me today here, and stay safe and healthy, and see you soon in one of our upcoming webinars. Thanks. Bye-bye.